You.
Okay, good evening. Thank you for joining us. This is Live with Faye and Faye. The biggest conversation right now is about cryptocurrency. There used to be what is a cryptocurrency conversation that was happening. Now everybody's asking what's going on with cryptocurrency. A couple of news stories came out. NDTV reported that the government is planning a ban of sorts. It was a very confusing story. It came out yesterday. And after that story came out yesterday, sweet hell broke loose on these exchanges that actually sell cryptocurrency or allow for people to invest or buy cryptocurrency, right? So the confusing part of the story was that in the NDTV story, and that was picked up by other news agencies, that it said the government is going to ban private cryptocurrency. Now, nobody knows what, in this particular context, what private cryptocurrency means. And there was a lot of speculation about that. Then what happened is we had some clarity this morning. NDTV said that the fresh draft of the cryptocurrency regulation of official digital currency bill 2021 that will be tabled in the winter session of Parliament will bring in regulation and not a complete ban. And generally, the idea will be to safeguard small investors, that the RBI will also release its own version of a digital currency. Now, again, I must remind you, there's a difference between a digital currency and a cryptocurrency. They're two completely different things. So we don't know what exactly the RBI is considering at this point. But you must remember, the reason why this story is so interesting is obviously everybody talked about the ads that were being played during during the IPL and after that the T20 World Cup, where encouraged young people to put 100 rupees in cryptocurrency. There were these two exchanges that went completely bonkers during these very expensive cricket events, spending ad money. So that obviously drew a certain amount of attention. And it is, of course, arguable at this point, there are far more Indians invested in cryptocurrency than they were maybe 3 years ago or 4 years ago when the RBI had first considered its ban back in 2018. Like I said, lots of questions still remain on what the government plans to do. One, where did this information leak from? Two, what is private cryptocurrency? Can cryptocurrency be banned at all? And is that likely to be something the government is considering? Now, to help us answer these questions, we have Nikhil, Pahwa, the founder of Medianama. Medianama is a source of information that I personally go to a lot, especially when it comes to things tech and freedom on the internet and things like that. Ajeet Khurana is the former CEO of Zebpay, who joins us as well. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Good evening to the both of you. And we'll try also for our audience to take as many questions as we can during this conversation. Nikhil, you first. There's, apart from all of the other things that people are talking about, there's no speculation about the story itself, where it possibly could have come from, and if it was actually just meant to manipulate the prices. What is your reading of the situation right now?
I don't think anyone would want to put such a story out to manipulate the prices. What's happened is that in February, there was a notification about a bill being tabled in Parliament that would ban private cryptocurrencies and enable public cryptocurrencies, including a government cryptocurrency. I think it was being talked about as Lakshmi coin. And now, with a lot of headway having been made through the year, with conversations around the fact that banning crypto would be like banning the internet in 1995, and that would set us back, India back many years. And I think the government has largely acknowledged that. Someone put the same text for the winter session of Parliament. Now, if there is a bill, given what we've heard from the government over the past few months at least, I doubt that it's going to be about banning any currencies as such. So that's what led to the panic, because the text is exactly what triggered the selling, triggered the panic, just as it did in February as well, because no one wants to, if there are only people looking to sell, who's going to buy? And at that point in time, prices will crash. So this panic is a reaction to someone putting probably the wrong text in Parliament. I hope it's the wrong text, because that's not the signals that we've gotten over the past few months.
It also said something about private cryptocurrency. Is that the first you're hearing of it? Do we know what the government would mean when they say private cryptocurrency?
Yeah, that's a tricky one. So as Ajeet will probably explain better, there are public blockchains and there are private blockchains, and public blockchains have traceability of transactions, and private blockchains don't. That's the crypto sense of public and private. At the same time, the regulatory sense, the Babu sense of public and private is that private is not owned by the government and public is owned by the government. So we don't know which public and private the government is talking about, and they certainly haven't clarified that. But people like you and me who maybe may not understand the crypto definition would think of it as a government definition and think that everything that's not fiat related or government run is going to get banned. So that's why people would be selling.
Let me bring in my other guest as well, and we have questions popping up right now. Ajeet Khurana joins us. Ajeet, what is your understanding so far of what is going on? And we're all working on interpretations at this point, but what do you think is going to happen in that winter session? What would that bill look like?
So while we are indeed crystal ball gazing a little, but it is not as opaque as we are making it out to be. The reason is there have been multiple attempts, and the confusion arises when you don't realize what happened earlier and now. Other than the crypto exchange that you introduced me as being the former CEO of, I'm also the former head of the Blockchain and Crypto Assets Council, which is the premier body, and which has, as a result, I have presented 2 times to the Interministerial Committee, which led to the creation of a bill in February of 19, which was going to be presented in the budget session. And now the agenda item is the same. Very simply, what's a private cryptocurrency? In February, there was a doubt about what this means, because the private cryptocurrency is a technical term also. But over the last few months, government has made it very clear that anything that the government, whether Indian or otherwise, does not issue is a private cryptocurrency. So that, while not a technical term, is the government's term. So we accept that. Second thing is that this entire issue around banning, which has led to a meltdown of sorts in the markets. Very unfortunately, people have lost money. Others, of course, have gained, because there are 2 sides to every transaction. But one of the reasons that has happened is because the same agenda has been listed this time. In February of 21, a bill which was authored in February of 19 was presented. So we had kind of lost hope as to will this ever come. They keep talking about it. But now when it comes after very active discussion with the government, where everybody, including the RBI, and I must say the RBI is seen as the most stringent opposition to crypto in this country, and rightly so, obviously so. But including the RBI, everybody has said that banning is not on the card. And suddenly you hear that banning might be on the card. It is understandable why some people will be like, my God, this is probably the end of it, leading to this confusion. But to the best of my knowledge, and I must say I'm fairly tuned in, we are not headed for a ban. However, there is a flip side, right? Whenever it comes to regulation, the sort of regulations that might come in as the first cut regulations might be so stringent that people might say, oh, this is practically a ban.
So, okay, so let me, Ajeet, ask you the question to simplify the question for our audience. Now, there are several people who have, via the exchanges, gotten into cryptocurrency, bought small amounts, there's money. Do they have reason to panic, or do they have reason to worry?
So while obviously I want to not be irresponsible and claim to predict the future, but very simply, I did not sell, right? So obviously I believe, so my 2 sons have some crypto, they did not sell. So at least you can believe that I believe there is no reason to panic. Crypto is volatile in general, unrelated to the Indian regulation. That volatility apart, as far as the regulatory situation is concerned, no, I do not see fear, uncertainty, and doubt creeping in at this stage.
Okay. Let me bring in Nikhil as well. Nikhil, the RBI, like we know, and I was reading after the audience, the RBI attempted a ban back in 2018. The exchanges then went to court. They went to Supreme Court. Finally, Supreme Court, stayed that ban. And there's always been a sense of sort of discomfort in government towards cryptocurrency, because it can't track the transactions. It doesn't know. There's this constant sense that there's dark web transactions going on. It's being used for drugs. It's being used for terror funding, that sort of thing. what kind, and when the government now says in this clarification that Bloomberg has carried, that it's likely to be something that is investor protection more than anything else, what is the sense that you are getting from this bill at this point? That is it likely to just ask for more KYC, or are we going to see maybe more need for transactions to be tracked?
So I think, Faye, crypto is built in a manner that all transactions will be tracked. And one of the concerns around crypto has been a lot of black money or cash getting converted to crypto. But the fact is that if the exchanges can track the transactions and the transactions are recorded on the blockchain, then there is more traceability in crypto than there is in cash. So anyone who assumes that transactions won't be tracked is, I think, making a mistake. There are several other concerns as well, and we can get into that. But I just want to take a step back and mention one clear signal that I'm getting that cryptocurrencies are not going to be banned is that just earlier this month in Sydney, the Prime Minister said that, or attending a meeting, he said that there was a consensus. He talked about how governments need to, I think it was November 18th, that governments and democratic nations need to work together to ensure that cryptocurrencies don't end up in the wrong hands, right? So he's clearly open to a way forward. And we've heard noises repeatedly from various parts of the government saying that they find the ban unfeasible. And there needs to be a middle path that is taken. And I think there is, what's happened is that there are two sides to this. One is the RBI, which until recently was of the opinion that cryptocurrencies need to be banned. But there was also the other side, which is progressive, saying that the crypto space of today is like the internet of 1995. And if it gets banned, then that will impact the role that India plays in the advancement of a technology, but also in participating in the advancement of a technology. Let's not forget that the internet really blew up in India almost 15 to 20 years after it did in many other parts of the world. And India certainly doesn't want to be left behind. So I think there are concerns that need to be addressed around, cash getting converted, tax evasion, demands by hackers for ransomware, money being transferred abroad beyond the limits that are permitted by the Indian government. Many projects that come up just for the purpose of funneling money out, and all sorts of other illegal usages also. All of these you need regulatory oversight and some level of control for. But the other use cases of, let's say, buying NFTs or creating NFTs, and remember, NFTs are the future of copyright and artists getting money for the rest of their lives for the work that they create. Smart contracts, gaming, all of these are getting linked to crypto and the blockchain. And so, those positive use cases need to be enabled, while the problematic use cases need to be quite clearly contained and prevented. You might even see some kind of a tax holiday. I mean, my guess is there should be a tax holiday for people who haven't, no, not a holiday, sorry, but a period within which they're asked to pay tax for the trading that they might have done, in order to legitimize those transactions or ensure that there isn't tax evasion. So there are measures that can be taken to address concerns, and I hope that's what we see going forward. I don't think there's going to be a ban, but I think there needs to be a public consultation. I hope there isn't a bill that gets tabled now without a proper public consultation and without participation from all types of stakeholders on what's the right approach for regulation going forward.
I'm smiling, Nikhil, because we've not seen that sort of behavior from this government on any bill so far. So I would be surprised.
We have, in fact, very clearly on the personal data protection bill, especially, there have been consultations for 3 years now. Obviously, we need to move faster with crypto, and we needed to move faster with privacy. But there was a Justice Sri Krishna committee. There was a consultation at MeitY before the bill was presented. There have been joint parliamentary committee consultations where they took submissions from over 200 stakeholders. So there has been public consultation. That many cases there hasn't been, but it's not that there have been no cases where there have been public consultations.
Right, we have a couple of questions. Sukhdev Sogal wants to know, will the ED enter into the cryptocurrency domain and harass the holders? Ajeet, do you want to answer that question? Is that likely that we will see?
So quite simply, this answers this question as well as comments on one part of what Nikhil said. So to the best of my knowledge, and I must easily know 100 people in India who invest in crypto, every one of those 100 pays tax on their gains. So the thing is that if you were to look at an enforcement agency of some sort, their challenges would be two. One is that you are not paying your tax, which at this point, at least, see, I don't know about the small guy who may be making big gains, but is not traceable, does not have a bank account, or has very little footprint, which I hope the bill will address. And the second is you're doing some illegitimate activity, when I really hope enforcement does come into the picture.
Yes.
But I don't think that this is a serious concern, because by and large, in the lit pool, and if you want, I'll tell you the difference between the dark pool and lit pool in crypto. In the lit pool, there have been enough webinars, seminars, videos on how to compute your tax, and with how do you import the file, how do you put it in Excel. So I think people are paying tax. Exchanges have been paying GST, and prior to that, service tax, before GST existed, on the services that they provide. So I think that tax evasion probably is happening in general at the same level as income tax evasion, but not specifically. This is not a place where people are like avoiding tax or skipping it.
Right. And the other question I had for you is, what would this mean for the exchanges in terms of the changes that they're likely to make, or would be required to make going forward?
So I think that if we were to look at the two phases of this sort of regulation, one which affects the businesses such as exchanges the most, and one which affects the investors the most, at this point of time, I am expecting far more stringent guidelines for the businesses. Because, right from the way they market it, to the way they report, to the way they record, KYC and AML, KYC at least, I must tell you that every exchange I know is doing bank-grade KYC. But AML, which is anti-money laundering monitoring at the transaction level, some exchanges are doing it very fastidiously, and even submitting STRs, that is suspicious transaction reports, to the financial intelligence unit. Some others have no such system. So I think that AML guidelines coming in, KYC is already in place, but it should be made mandatory. I think that is important. And finally, the one bit which amazingly I have not heard anybody talk about is that the exchanges are sitting on top of very large amount of customers' money. I mean, even in INR terms. And ordinarily, this should require a payment wallet license, PPI license, and a whole lot of that. But because those are not available to these people, they are just sitting on it because that's the only way business can be done. So some clarity on holding of customers' money with you, which is required for every kind of financial institution in the world, insurance, mutual fund, bank, what have you, has to also come in. So I think it's going to be far more rigorous for the exchanges than for the individuals.
Right. And we've seen, especially when it comes to RBI licenses, it's extremely rigorous, whether it is banking licenses or whether it's the fintech, licenses that they're handing out at this point. So what you're saying is, when this bill does come out, the exchanges who already exist will probably have to jump through many, many hoops within a certain period of time in order to continue to do business. And any new exchange that wants to come in will have to do a lot of work and paperwork and filing of licenses in order to start. So it's not going to be as easy as, let's get a few computers together and start an exchange. That's what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying. I must point out the repercussion, the corollary of what you're saying. Today, if I am exchange A, who wants to be highly compliant and do all the right things, or exchange B, which is two guys with a backpack in a coffee shop saying I am an exchange, the problem is the economics of this guy is like operating at zero cost, while these guys are spending, literally, I'm not exaggerating, at least tens of crores in issues related to compliance as well as security compliance. That makes exchange A non-profitable. Right? Either it can convey to its audience, as Coinbase in the US has managed to do, that because it is so much more compliant, it deserves a premium for its service. That we have not seen with the very highly price-sensitive customer in India. So there is always a tendency for exchange A to be a little more like exchange B, which is what should come to an end with the upcoming legislation.
Nikhil, I saw your hand go up. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so Faye, I would say that at some level, I feel that the exchanges have been extremely irresponsible with their advertising over the past few months. They've, in a situation where there isn't any regulatory oversight, and given the fact that, you know, the regulation itself hasn't been finalized and everything hangs in the balance, I do feel that they should have been a little more conservative with their advertising and waited for there to be regulatory clarity before they try to get that many customers in. Because when that kind of advertising happens and when the number of users starts spiking in the manner that they did, especially around the matches, regulators get very concerned about what is going on over here. And I think lack of patience has been one of the flaws. That being said, I think many of the exchanges are very, very responsible in terms of how they've handled KYC and customers, and the kind of records that are being maintained. I would say that, in fact, I believe that regulation is going to be very good for the exchanges and for customers, because one of the big problems that the exchanges have faced over the last many months is that banks haven't made it very easy to deposit money and to purchase cryptocurrencies in the country. They have kept cutting off access. There seem to be have been an informal guidance that they had received to prevent exchanges from allowing people to put in money and trade. And the problem with that is that it moved all of this action away from a bank-led, bank to exchange transaction to a off the record kind of a transaction where cash would be sent to someone in exchange for USDT. So it is actually misbehavior and irresponsible behavior from banks that has led to all of this cash economy going into exchanges, as opposed to if they make it more convenient for someone to deposit using banks. And I hope that one part of the regulation is going to be to ensure that banks allow transfer of money. Legitimizing exchanges, regulating exchanges is going to actually help exchanges and the entire crypto ecosystem in India. And that's very, very important.
It also sounds, Nikhil, right now like the government is going to look at cryptocurrency as commodities, like how we have our gold trading exchanges. We have commodity trading exchanges across the country. It's likely to look at it not as legal tender currency, but as commodities. Is that something that you're reading as well?
I mean, this is what sources and rumors are saying, when no one knows for sure. But the fact is that at the end of it, if you're unable to buy something with it, then the value reduces. And especially with an NFT ecosystem coming up, and let's not forget Amitabh Bachchan issued his NFTs a couple of months ago, and India is a very, very strong creator economy. The monetization opportunity for the creators might get diminished if people aren't able to use their crypto to purchase NFTs. And we also end up then losing opportunities for fans across the globe to purchase NFTs of some of these of Indian artists. I'm hoping to see, for example, exclusive music being created for a specific group of fans in exchange for crypto. All of those powerful use cases will get significantly restricted and mitigated, and the utility of crypto is going to get impacted, which is not good for India, I think. So even if it does not allow users of crypto as a means of payment for something, I hope that at least I'm not sure, and maybe Ajeet can explain more about this, about what it means if crypto is only going to be allowed to be used for as an asset.
Before I go to Ajeet, for our audience who needs to understand it, NFT is a non-fungible token. It's basically a piece of digital art or a piece of specific digital creation that the creator can then sell on the internet. For example, somebody could sell their first ever tweet, so that they've put out, that you can then buy and keep as a fan or as an audience member. Taking this back then to our guest Ajeet, do you want to just comment on what that would look like on what Nikhil was just saying?
Yes, so there are two parts to this. One is using it in the payment system and paying for coffee at Starbucks with it. First, crypto holders have not really demonstrated the need to do that, because as I have always joked, that if I can just control the urge to buy that coffee today and wait a bit, I will be able to buy 2 coffees tomorrow with the way prices sometimes inflate. But that apart, Nikhil, in my understanding and hearing, this bit around crypto to crypto swap, which is buying Bitcoin using Ethereum as an example, or by extension, addressing what you said, using Bitcoin or crypto of some sort to buy NFT, which is coming under the crypto umbrella because it works on the same blockchain. I don't think that is being seen as something to block in when they are trying to say no payments. So I don't think
that would be
that
currency, right? Because you're buying art in exchange for crypto.
So what is happening is that, so suppose, for example, I were to go to an art studio and say, hey, here is 1 Bitcoin and give me like 40 lakh rupees worth of painting. You are completely right. But the NFTs, because they are working on the same blockchain,
on the blockchain,
the Polygon, whatever, they are being seen as crypto assets, which is the umbrella under which all of this falls, right? So that swap is very akin to a Bitcoin to Ethereum swap or Bitcoin to NFT on the crypto exchange swap. Right? I'll tell you where this challenge comes in. Both you as well as Faye are talking about NFTs more from the creator economy, the art, etc., which is probably the first use case of NFTs. But all over the world, if you see the more advanced use cases, they are often fractionalizing assets such as a building, such as a hotel, such as a holiday opportunity or a yacht, etc. Now here what is happening is that though you're buying an NFT, it is giving you charge to an underlying asset. So now it starts becoming akin to a true payment system. And that is a challenge that needs to be addressed because it's a unique situation where it's a crypto asset, but it represents a physical asset also.
The other last question that I did want to bring before the two of you is this idea of the RBI launching its own digital currency. Now, my understanding from that is that a digital legal tender would be very different from cryptocurrency, which is a completely different thing. But Ajeet, do you want to take a stab at that, or what the RBI might be considering at all?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, 3-4 months ago, I was part of some international panels and we found that close to 82 countries are trying to come up with a CBDC. So it is like, and the digital yuan, which is supposed to be like the most revolutionary because it is big as opposed to some island nation, which nobody might even know on the map, might create their own digital asset. What is happening? The similarity between government's coin and cryptocurrency is the underlying technology. So the technology is expected to be blockchain, which allows peer-to-peer transfer. The differentiation, of course, is that one crypto rupee, if I may just call it that, will always be worth 1 Indian rupee, just like 1 rupee in UPI is not of a different value than a coin of 1 rupee. So to that extent, it won't be a speculative asset or all the other use cases that people try to attribute to cryptocurrency, hence is different. I must point out that if you have noticed, every part of our economy, RBI definitely, has been showing a desire to disintermediate, that is remove brokers. Most recently, for selling government bonds, RBI came up with something called the RBI Direct or some other such name where you don't have to go to a bank or a broker to buy bonds. You can directly, end users can directly buy it through RBI. I see CBDC as a natural evolution of something that started with only notes and coins, moved to negotiable instruments, check, pay order, etc. Then did NEFT, RTGS, then did IMPS, and then did UPI. I think it is a natural evolution. Unlike all the other things, such as suppose I have to give you 10 rupees by UPI right now, I need to go to a Google Pay, Amazon Pay, Paytm, or some such thing. And you also need to have an account with one of them or maybe HDFC Bank or whatever. A digital rupee, I would be able to hand you directly without the need for intermediaries, pretty much like I could have handed you a 10 rupee note directly. So hence, I think that is why it is an evolution of the system. It does not have the same use cases, barring peer-to-peer transaction as general cryptocurrencies.
Nikhil?
I have nothing to add to what Ajeet said, but all I can say is that I hope that it is SEBI and not the RBI that ends up regulating cryptocurrencies, given how, firstly, how authoritarian RBI seems to be in the payments ecosystem, and second, and how evasive it seems to be when it comes to right to information requests, and the fact that SEBI is uniquely positioned, given its history in actually managing exchanges. So I hope that this goes to SEBI rather than the RBI.
It's interesting though, if it's considered a currency, Nikhil, that would bring it under the RBI. If it's considered a commodity that's been traded on exchanges, that would bring it under SEBI because the exchanges are regulated by SEBI.
Which is what the conversation around it crypto being limited to an asset seems to indicate that the RBI doesn't want to touch this. So this is going to go to SEBI. That's what the signals are.
That's what the signals are. I'm going to leave it there. I want to thank both of you for your time. You've been very kind to explain this to us. Obviously, there's a long road ahead, and we're going to be waiting to see what gets tabled before Parliament to understand, what the government is thinking right now as far as cryptocurrency is concerned. I think both of our guests make it fairly clear that there's no need to panic at this point. At least we should probably just wait and watch to see what the government is actually doing. Gentlemen, thank you for speaking with us. For our audience, the news is up at exactly 9 o'clock.